I decided to leave that studio. And in 2017, we opened together with Asa
the second studio, where it all started. There we built the walls, the floors, and we wanted to have so many different textures that we can use. And we were also renting the space. So we wanted photographers to come, and they would have everything they needed to create whatever they desire. So this is when we created the first backdrop, because we were still in a reconstruction mode. And Justinas had his last photo shoot of a fashion brand, and he asked me, Asa, maybe you could paint a backdrop for me and we could use it to cover the terrible walls. And I was like, okay, sure, we can try. And here you can see the first backdrop that we created. We used it later on in the studio as well. It's in the middle at the bottom in the picture. And yeah, this is when it started. And our photographers who came to the studio, they loved having the variety, and they could create whatever they imagined and just invite their clients, and everything was ready for them. So we will talk more about how you can do that for your photography too. And
we drove us away because we renovated the whole building and we lost our studio. So
had to move out.
Yeah, so we rented this space in 2020, and in this studio we are filming all our education programs. I am photographing different photo shoots, and this is creative space which we creating more and more. Creating more props, creating more walls, portables, backdrops, and I want to make the studio more portable and moving. Like in one day I want to put a lot of sets and photograph, and other day I want to film something. So
yeah, and as you can see, the backdrops, they take the main part in our photography nowadays, because they, as Justina said, they are very easy to move. So no matter if you have a studio and you want to set up everything in your studio, or you need to go to your client's home or to an office, you can take them and carry them with photo set there. So today we will be focusing on how to create those beautiful photo sets. So if you're sitting there and thinking, okay, it all sounds great, guys, but what if I'm in a different photography niche and it's not going to work for me? I want to calm you down, because here you can see our students' works in various different niches, starting from newborn photography, fashion, portraits, boudoir, maternity, pets, business portraits, and kids. So no matter in which photography niche you are, you can do that. So let me know in the chat if you have used backdrops before, or if you're new to using backdrops. So we want to show you the transformation that you can experience once you will start using backdrops.
Yeah, this is our student Urshka Golub. Before she learned how to create backdrops, she photographed just simple on plain backgrounds.
On gray backdrop, on white backdrop,
on black backdrop, yeah.
Yeah, just how Love said. This is how a lot of photographers start. And this is great. There's nothing wrong with that. But let's just look at what photographers can add to your photography. This is the same photographer who created her backdrops, and she started using them.
And you can see how the unique look of the portfolio looks. There's a lot of variations, like props, colors, and I think that style is the more powerful to show to your client.
Yeah, and you can think that the backdrop is such a simple tool, isn't it? But once you will start painting it and creating it and using it, you will see how it will spark your creativity. And yeah, we love seeing how our students' work start to change once they start using the backdrops for themselves. Their style become more cohesive. It has unique style that they start to create for themselves. And using backdrops is the fastest way to up-level as a portrait photographer. You can create your unique style, you can stand out from others, and that's what we all want, right? You can hone in your personal style more and transform your photography just in general.
Yeah, and actually you don't need any painting experience in backdrop creation process, because when you know establish the process, it's quite easy.
It's very simple. And yeah, this is another example. These images, they are great. He's not using hand-painted backdrops. This is our student Remigius, and he's also photographing in a very small studio space. So if you're sitting there and thinking, I have it's not for me. He is using it in a very, now we are going through the theory, and later on we'll go to the show part, where we'll show you the backdrops and sets that we have in the studio. So you could get the knowledge how you can apply it today. And this is work, the same, let's know in the chat. Yeah, the backdrops can add a lot of variation, and later on the webinar we will talk about how differently you can photograph it, because once you will see the backdrops hanged in the studio, your eyes see the backdrop very differently, but how your camera captures it is also different. So let's move to the backdrop step. Our camera apparently didn't work, but we will try to change it again, or we will switch.
Yeah, so I need to check, but I think something went wrong. So it's not how can I imagine it helps.
In the chat, let us know if you can see the backdrop set, so we could be sure. Type yes in the chat. No. And yes. Okay, yes. Perfect.
We can't hear you guys. Guys, we can't hear. One second, they might have a network issue or a camera issue. Let's give them a moment, guys. We can't see you guys.
We can't see the set?
Yes, now we can hear you. Now we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay.
Okay, sorry guys, something technical problems.
So I think we need to restart from the place where we switched to this part. So, okay, I will repeat it. So here you can see two different sets. And what I mean when I talk about Photo Studio set, it's usually a few backdrops and an apple boxes. So right here is the first set. One
Guys, we can hear you now, but we can't see you now. So, I'd love to see you guys.
Could you check everything on your side because we check the tables and so on, so we have everything. So it's on.
See your picture. So I think the cameras again gone off. Oh yes, now we see the. We see the
Okay, now should be fine, yeah?
Can we see them?
Yeah. Now it's great?
No, not yet. Yeah, now we can see you.
Yeah,
Yes, now
everything
you're.
is fine. Mic,
Perfect.
video.
Yes. Thank you. By the way, this is something phenomenal that you've done for us. So I love it totally.
Great, yes, we can see it now. Okay. Yay!
Okay, so we can start again.
We have a saying that the third time can never go wrong in our country, so I think now it will be fine. Okay.
Perfect.
I can hear someone talking. Is everything all right?
No, perfect. It's all good. It's all good. I was just confirming that it's perfect.
Good.
Perfect. Great. So here are two photo sets. And when I'm talking about the photo set, you can be wondering what I mean. So here's one photo set from two backdrops and an apple boxes. And here's another set.
Let's talk about apple boxes. First, you can see here is three different colors apple boxes. One is darker. I am always using it for dark set. This one is neutral, natural wood color, so it's best to use in light backgrounds because it matches them together better. And the third one is middle brown. It's middle brown.
Yeah, it's brown color.
And it's great matches together with lighter sets and darker sets.
Yeah, and also the dark set.
Yeah. So about backdrop sets, actually you can see behind us one subtle value.
This backdrop, it has very subtle texture and it has lighter colors. So one way to choose the backdrop for your photo shoot is think about what mood you want to create. Is it light and bright and uplifting?
Or it's dark and moody.
Yeah. So when having backdrops at your studio, it's really great. And already mentioned is that you don't need a big space. Look at us. It's quite a small corner, and we have two variations how to pose our model. So you can start choosing and think about what type of backdrop you want to create and use by thinking about the color. And another way?
By texture.
Yes.
Because if you want dark, moody portraits, you need to choose a bit more visible texture, like more darker tones, more visible texture. Then when you want to create lighter tones, you can use this set.
Yeah, because you need to think whether you want the texture to be visible in your portrait or do you want the backdrop just to blend in. Also, another important thing, if you will use more subtle textures, you can use the model wearing the clothes with more elements on it. But if you choose the backdrop that has a lot of texture in it already, you want to stay away from the clothes with a lot of elements because it can be too much distracting for your eyes.
Yeah, so when I'm photographing in darker tones, I always ask for my models to wear like black colors, white colors, or just pastel colors because it always looks great in classic natural way.
Yeah, and you also ask them to wear monochrome clothes.
Yeah.
Just a cloth that is made of one color. Another important thing when you're thinking about backdrops that a lot of photographers don't think about is that you can use backdrops on the floor as well. You can see a few backdrops hang behind us, but it's a great tool to use it on the floors too. Because how many of us have beautiful floors at the studio? And especially if you want to shoot your model in full height, you want the floor to match perfectly with the backdrop, right? So this is the best way to also lay them on the floor. And don't worry, they are quite durable. They are painted on cotton canvas, so they won't be damaged very easily.
Yeah, and as Asia said, we're painting backdrops on cotton canvas because it is easier to just roll the backdrops on paper or aluminum tube, and easier to carry it. Like if you're photographing business portraits, you can take them to the office, just roll down like this background, hang it, and use it for photo shoots.
Another important thing why it's great that it's painted on canvas is if you have a small space, you don't want your backdrops to take a lot of space at the studio. So once you've done the photo shoot, you roll it and put it somewhere in the corner, and that's it. They don't take a lot of space.
Yeah, and if you paint the backdrops like on a hard surface,
on wooden boards and platforms,
we take a lot of space and it's harder to change them, and maybe you need an assistant. And with this, we just roll it and use it.
Yeah. Another great thing that you can do with backdrops is to create a corner, like right here.
Yeah, like in this backdrop set, there's only two backdrops. Yeah, it's three backdrops. There you can make corner. You can add apple boxes, you can add plant, ladders, or other props, and you can make different elements.
But one important thing that I want to mention, we will show you how these backdrops look in photos as well, because it happens for students as well. They think, oh, I maybe want to change something in this backdrop, but you will see how your eyes sees the backdrop differently and how your camera shoots it differently. Because it depends on the lighting, it depends on post-production, it depends whether you use some filters or not. So I think we can move to the slides and show them how these backdrops look in photo shoots.
Okay, so now we are going to
another camera. Are we back here?
Yeah, and share the screen.
Yes, our camera is working this time. Great. So yeah, you saw two different photo sets, and now we want to walk you through how the backdrops look in photos. Because as I mentioned, the eyes sees the backdrops a little bit differently. So it's great to have a variety of backdrops in your studio, but to begin with, you don't need many. There you saw just 5 backdrops, and you already can change which one is on the floor and which one is hanging on the wall. So with 5, you have so many variations. So this is the first, very subtle set.
Yeah, and as you can see in the first photo, I'm using only 2 backdrops. We are quite the same color. And in the second, I added just apple boxes to stand the model a little bit higher. And as you can see, the apple boxes and the background really great matches together. And this apple boxes is natural plywood color. And the model is wearing only black clothes. So it's really great to stand out from the photo. And like in the third photo, I just added second apple boxes for model to sit. And she's wearing light clothes, and the backdrop set looks...
It's very subtle. And the whole backdrop is very subtle. It has has a and also you can see that the picture is very it's not very big on the shot. Here is the backdrop that was in our studio on the floor. It was laid on the floor, but here it's hanged. So it's the same backdrop, guys, but one picture is colorful and another one is black and white. So you see, in the colorful picture, the backdrop texture is less visible. But when you transform it into a black and white, you can see it way clearer. So as I mentioned, the way how you will photograph the model will change the backdrop itself. Here is a video of how you can use the backdrops on the floor as well.
Yeah, and as you can see, I am just laid the background on the floor and use black to cover it.
And it creates a concrete wall, concrete floor look, even though it's just a backdrop. So with backdrops, you can create that illusion, you can create that variety.
Yeah, and that backdrop I created like in 20 minutes with only one color. So.
I can't. Okay. Yeah, there's another variation of the same backdrop used in a daylight on the left side and with using flashes. You see the difference how the daylight photographs with the backdrop and how it looks differently when you use flashes.
Yeah, and you can see in the daylight the backdrop is more subtle, less visible. And with artificial light, it's more visible, and in black and white, the structure is more deeper and more visible.
Yeah, and the backdrop catches your eyes way sooner in the black and white photo. So this is the set that you saw, and as Justina said, it's really great to think about the apple boxes that you will use, because here you used an apple box that has a similar color. And when I said that it's best to start just by using a few backdrops and apple boxes, and that's it, that's the best way to start. Because you might want to bring a plant, a ladder, and an interesting chair, but everything has so many colors in it that is the best way to start practicing with just using backdrops and apple boxes.
Yeah, start with simple, like you can start without any apple boxes and just with few backdrops, and then when you photograph more photo shoots, you think about, oh, maybe I want to add that element, or maybe I want to add plant, or so on, and you can really create an amazing sets with backdrops.
Yeah, this is the same set in a different angle, and yeah, you can see Justina's love to use a few backdrops as a background, because on the left photo, he uses two backdrops that overlay one another. So by the studio, you can create the corners and so on. There's so many variations. And the possibilities how it looks in the photo shoot.
Yeah, you can use two backdrops like a corner, or you can use just simple white wall and add a backdrop in like in the third photo.
And I love this slide because it shows you how a simple backdrop looks at the top, and then how it changes when you photograph it. So I really love for you to just take a look at each of the backdrop and then look at the pictures carefully, and below they are the same backdrops, but depending on the light that Justin has used or how he made it in post-production, it means how the backdrop looks.
Yeah, or you can just incorporate like in the photo window, you just incorporate like the backdrop like to cover white wall and make it dark corner. So just use your imagination.
Yeah, and here you can see that we have a lot of backdrops, and one of the best tips that we have, because we have more than 50 backgrounds in our studio that we created, and we added numbers to them because it starts to be confusing. You want to prepare for the photo shoot, and once you roll the backdrops, it's hard for you to know which one is which when they are rolled, right? So it's great to add a number on the back and have a sheet. So once you want to prepare for the photo shoot, you have that sheet ready, and happening. Dark. Okay, it's good. So have that sheet ready so you will be able to take it and take the backdrops that you need. So once you will be starting about the backdrops that you want to use in your photography, think about what do you mostly photograph? Is it newborns? Do you want the backdrops and background to be light and uplifting? Or maybe you want to photograph maternity photoshoots and make it a bit darker and moody. So this leads me to what is the mood that you want to create? Is it bright and uplifting or dark and moody? Which colors would you like your backdrops to be? Here are a little bit more examples of what we talked previously. This is our student work, Marco. And in this portrait, you can see that the background is darker and it has a moody look, and the texture is very visible, right?
And in our example, the texture is very subtle and it's light, so it's different mode.
The texture is still visible in this one compared to another one that I will show. And here, Kristen is creating more subtle backdrops. So these ones are more moody as well, and she's shooting maternity kids and families, but she's using very subtle backdrops. And here she's using more lighter backdrops with a very subtle texture. So you can see how different the backdrops looks, not only depending on the color, but also depending on the texture that you use. So we want to, we hope the abilities of what you can create by using backdrops, and we hope that this timeless and inspiring. We want to leave
the full animated backdrops.
Yeah, just imagine and awaken that creativity. What could you create with backdrops? So thank you, Love, for our time. We can get back to you.
Let us know, guys, you try to use backdrops, or are you planning to create some backdrops? Just type in the comment section. It's really interesting to know.
Yeah, because I know that for some of you, the backdrops concept can be something entirely new and unheard of, and others, maybe you have tried to use hand-painted backdrops before. Let us know. Yeah, so many of you want to create it.
Yeah, and I saw that some of the photographers in the world, they are using digital backdrops, and they are like making them in post-production. But just think about when you have like photo shoot with 30 photos or one or a lot of different photo shoots. Actually, you don't need to spend a lot of time to changing backgrounds in post-production. So that's why I prefer to paint my own backdrops and use them in Photoshop, because I don't need to spend a lot of time working, changing backgrounds in post-production. So it's a really great way to create your own backdrops. And actually, as we said, the backdrop price starts from purchase from $200. So it's
an amazing opportunity to have this tool in your photography because it seems as such a small tool, but you saw our students work before and after, and I can see that transformation. I hope that you can too.
This is so phenomenal. I'm sure a lot of people have been making notes. I see the comments in the chat box, and people are like, they are just overwhelmed with the ideas that you've thrown today already. Right? Let's ask our audience, guys. Have we really learned something different today? Did your mind first go in this direction? Shefali says yes. So we continue with the Q&A. Questions in the Q&A tab, and we'll get to all the questions in a moment. So Amit says sky is the limit after attending this session. Awesome, Amit. Murari Krishna says learning about moods is one key takeaway. So Kunal Mahajan says backdrops can change the mood and overall look of the photo. Amazing. Prashant says backdrop values in photography. True, Prashant. Guys, what more have you learned so far? Why don't you put in some more in the chat box? Ideas are flowing in. Kumar says backdrop defines the mood. Amazing. Mohan says actually I learned backdrop can change a whole story. Sagar says color palettes. Okay, Yashu says apple boxes. Amit says, so guys, why don't you take a screenshot of the chat box, put it up on your story. Why don't you tag me? Why don't you tag these two amazing guys who've given you these ideas? I'm on a mission to impact the world. So today they've come here, they've taught you something new. Why don't you tell this to other people that you learned this here today? Is that a good idea? How many of you guys are going to do this? Ankit, I love it that you wrote 3 key learnings. Okay, so Ankit has done it the way I asked. So Ankit said, yeah, awesome. So guys, you all want to take a 5-minute break, you all can have some water. So why don't I just give them your Instagram handle and other things. So guys, that's their handle, you can see it on the screen, and we'll also put it in the chat box. Just tag us, show us some love on social media. Why don't you follow them? It's the Migo Studio and Make Backdrops on Facebook. So we've shared all the links in the chat box, and that's my handle. That's, you can see me, you can follow me on Instagram. That's Love Israni. My handle on Facebook is Love Israni Photography, and that's Capturing Was handle. So Prachi is already following. Amazing, Prachi. So with that, guys, before we start Q&A, start putting in your questions in the chat box. We will have a power pack session of Q&A. Just letting you know, we have a Telegram group. If you want to stay tuned to what we do at Capturing, or we do such amazing sessions all for you, you can join the Telegram channel. So this is a one-way channel. We keep posting all updates. We're coming up with ebooks, and we're coming up with a lot of things. You can stay up to date with